avian
Back to the
vets.
deep dive. So you sent us a whole stack of material vet guidelines, articles, some scientific notes, and they all circle back to this one really stressful question for pet owners.
Right.
Why is the avocado something we think of as this incredible superfood potentially fatal for our birds?
It's a total paradox, isn't it? For us, avocados are, celebrated. Healthy fats, nutrients. But if you own a bird, you see these stark warnings from top avian vets.
And they're not messing around. They list it as outright toxic for parrots, macaws, cockatiels.
And especially the smaller ones, budgies, canaries, they're incredibly sensitive.
What makes it so tough is the conflicting stuff you see online. I mean, the anxiety's real. You'll read a story from someone saying, oh, my parrot nibbled some and was fine.
Exactly, and that anecdote is sitting right next to an official warning from an emergency vet clinic. It's confusing.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Cut through all that noise. We're going to use the hard science from your sources to get to the definitive truth about this hidden danger.
It's more than just a diet choice, really. For these animals, it's about biological survival. Birds have such unique, sensitive systems. When you have a consensus from groups like the ASPCA and the Association of Avian Vets,
You have to listen.
you have to ask why. And that's what we're going to break down.
Absolutely. And just before we dive into the science here, if you find this kind of deep dive valuable, we'd really appreciate your support. It helps us keep doing this.
It really does.
Just head over to the Mind Expansion Daily channel. You can like and share this video, which helps a ton. And if you'd like to, buy us a cup of coffee, you can find the link at https://buymecoffee.com/mindexpansiondaily.
And leave a comment. We'd love to hear where you're all tuning in from.
Yeah, we really do. Okay, so let's unpack this. We get that birds are sensitive. We get that avocados are fatty. But the real concern here, as your sources make so clear, it's much more specific than just indigestion.
That's the key insight. The danger isn't about fat, like giving a bird too many sunflower seeds. Owners sometimes make that mistake. But this is different.
It's not just an unhealthy meal.
No. It's an acute poison. The danger is biological, tied to a compound the plant itself makes.
Okay, that distinction, unhealthy versus poison, that's everything. Here's where it gets really interesting. The entire issue seems to boil down to one specific fungicidal toxin called persin.
That's it. Persin. It's a natural defense mechanism. The avocado tree, its scientific name is Persea americana, produces it to fight off fungal infections.
A defense mechanism. Okay.
And what's fascinating is where you find it. The highest concentrations, predictably, are in the parts of the plant meant for defense. The leaves, the bark, the pit, that tough outer skin.
But it doesn't just stay there.
It doesn't. It's systemic, which means it leaches into the soft green flesh, the part we eat.
And that's the crux of the paradox. Why is it fine for us but so deadly for them?
It comes down to metabolism. Humans and a lot of other mammals, we have the right. Let's call it metabolic machinery. Our liver enzymes can process and detoxify a person pretty efficiently, especially at the levels in the fruit.
But for birds?
For most birds, that detoxification pathway is either completely ineffective or gets overwhelmed almost instantly. They are just highly, highly vulnerable to it.
So it's not a question of a little toxin versus a lot of toxin. It's a fundamental difference in how a human body and a bird's body handle the exact same molecule.
Precisely. For the bird, once it's ingested, it leads to this rapid, severe, and very targeted damage.
To which systems?
The cardiovascular and respiratory systems.
Okay, let's connect this to the bigger picture then, because this is devastating. What does that damage actually look like inside the bird's body?
The primary mechanism is something called myocardial necrosis.
Which means?
It literally means the death of heart muscle tissue. The person directly attacks the heart, causing the organ to start failing. And that failure kicks off a cascade of other problems.
So it's like the toxin induces a very specific type of heart attack. How does that then lead to the breathing problems?
Well, a failing heart can't pump fluid effectively, so you get a backup. Fluid starts escaping into the surrounding tissues. With persin poisoning, that shows up as two things. Pericardial effusion, that's fluid building up around the heart, and pulmonary edema.
Fluid in the lungs.
Fluid in the lungs. The bird is, for all intents and purposes, drowning from the inside. This causes severe respiratory distress, weakness, and then, very quickly, collapse and death.
And the sources confirm this happens incredibly fast.
Chillingly fast. The studies
Yeah.
you sent over, especially the ones on budgerigars, are very specific. They show that even a small exposure could lead to death within 48 hours.
Wow.
And when they did postmortems, they consistently found that severe internal fluid, the edema we talked about, and hydropericardium. It confirmed that heart and lung failure was the direct cause. Canaries are also known to be extremely sensitive.
Okay, so we have to address the online debate then, because this is what confuses owners. What about the person who says, my Amazon parrot ate a small piece of avocado flesh and he was fine? Why is that anecdote so dangerous?
It's dangerous because it implies there's a safe margin that just doesn't exist. There are variables, sure. The type of avocado Guatemalan types are often cited as being higher in person, the ripeness, the size and species of the bird.
Right, and Amazon is much bigger than a budgie.
Of course. But even if that Amazon was large enough to metabolize a tiny trace amount without collapsing immediately, it does not mean the toxin had zero effect. It doesn't mean there wasn't subclinical damage to its heart tissue.
So the myth that you can just avoid the skin and the pit it's just wrong, because you can't peel it away.
You can't. The toxin leaches. That is why the veterinary consensus is so overwhelming. The ASPCA, the Association of Avian Vets, they're all unified on this. There is no safe part of the fruit for a bird. To rely on my bird was fine once is just, it's gambling against all the scientific evidence.
And even if you put the acute poisoning risk aside, there's a secondary problem, isn't there?
That's right. Let's imagine a world where person didn't exist. Even then, feeding avocado to a captive bird regularly is a recipe for chronic disease.
Because of the fat.
Exactly. Parrots are already prone to things like fatty liver disease. The fat content in avocados, even though they're healthy fats for us, can lead to obesity, atherosclerosis.
Yeah.
Major killers in the pet bird community.
Okay, so let's talk practicals for a minute. For an owner who's now terrified they might have left a cutting board out, what are the immediate signs I need to look for? The window to act seems so small.
It is incredibly tight. Recognizing signs immediately is critical. Because it's a cardiovascular attack, look for respiratory distress first. You'll see heavy breathing, maybe tail bobbing with each breath.
A sign they're struggling to breathe.
A major sign. That's often followed by agitation, then sudden profound lethargy, an inability to perch properly, ruffled feathers, just looking deeply unwell.
And the fluid buildup you mentioned, is that something an owner could actually see?
In some cases, yes. The edema can cause visible swelling under the skin, especially around the neck and chest. If you see any combination of those, the breathing trouble, the lethargy, the swelling, it is an absolute grade A emergency.
And you have to prepare for the reality that even if you rush to the vet, there's no easy fix.
There isn't. And this is the hardest part. There is no specific antidote for person. Treatment is purely supportive, meaning the vet will try to manage the symptoms. They'll provide oxygen to help with the breathing, maybe IV fluids for support. If the bird literally just ate it, they might try activated charcoal to bind the toxin. But the poisoning just moves so fast in small birds, by the time the symptoms are obvious, it's often too late.
So what does this all mean? When you boil down all this evidence from the experts, what is the single actionable instruction?
It's simple and it's absolute. The advice from the AVMA, the ASPCA, the Pet Poison Helpline, it's all the same. Total avoidance is mandatory.
Not moderation, avoidance.
Correct. This isn't a treat in moderation situation. The risk isn't just a poor diet. It's acute poisoning.
And what does total avoidance look like in a real kitchen?
It means more than just not handing your bird a piece. It means making sure the avocado plant itself, if you grow one, is out of reach. It means not leaving guacamole out on the counter.
Even residue on a knife or a cutting board.
It could be a risk for a curious little bird. You have to be diligent. Keep the fruit stored away out of their flight path.
Okay, so since we're taking this off the menu entirely, we should talk about the good stuff. What are the genuinely safe, nutrient-rich alternatives that people should focus on?
Absolutely. The foundation of a healthy diet should always be a high-quality pellet. That's about 50 to 70%. But for fresh food enrichment, there are so many wonderful safe options.
Like what?
For those soft, tasty treats, think small bits of mashed banana, papaya, or mango. Great for vitamins. Then, for the bulk of their fresh food, about 20 to 30% focus on vegetables. Leafy greens like kale or chard are fantastic. Brightly colored bell peppers, carrots for vitamin A.
And what about nuts for some healthy fats?
Yes, in moderation. Small amounts of almonds or walnuts are safe, controlled treats. They provide healthy, non-toxic fats and great enrichment.
So complete avoidance of avocado, a structured diet based on pellets, and a focus on safe veggies and fruits. That's the path forward.
That's the path. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the evidence is just unequivocal. Person is a serious, often fatal cardiorespiratory threat to birds. It is simply not a gamble worth taking. This whole deep dive is about seeing those silent threats They're hiding in plain sight.
And that really leads to the final thought we want to leave you with. If a food that we see as a human superfood avocado contains a toxin lethal to birds, it raises a really important question for you, the listener. What other common household things, foods that seem perfectly safe to us, might be silent, critical threats lurking in your home for your specific pet? It's a reminder that we can never assume human safety translates to animal safety. We have to do the work to understand the unique needs of the companions we bring into our lives.